Hi, in this demo, we want to think about what happens and to implement what happens in inventory when we change the information in this detail report. So let's look at triangles, just at random. Right now, the catalog information is this. We have a triangle. The description is a triangle. There's no quantity associated with the catalog, and it's in a bin called unassigned, and it's got a reorder level of 5. Now, let's say we ordered triangles, and we add 100 triangles. And now we're going to move these into a new bin called PR Parts Room 001, let's say. And now we'll click Done. That dismisses the keyboard. That's what should happen. And then we adjust the inventory, and we have an inventory report here. The bin is PR001, the part number is PN003, and there is a quantity of 100. So the inventory report is working. Now I'm going to show you how all this works. But now, let's say that, again, with a triangle at some later time, we want to move some triangles. So we need to be in the right bin, but let's say we take 20 triangles out of the bin. We're going to move them to the assembly line or some other place. Let's say we take 20 triangles out of PR001, so parts room 001, and let's see what happens. What should happen? Well, the inventory record should not change. I should have bin PR001, part number PN003, and quantity of what? 80. I'm relieving 20 out of this. So if I click Done here, then, and click on Adjust Inventory, that's what I get. I have PR001, part number PN003, and now there are 80. There were 100. I entered negative 20 as a quantity. 100 minus 20 is 80. All right, so let's see how all this works. First of all, there's been some changes, as you might expect, to the detail view controller. I've added some properties, outlet properties. I've also got a protocol here. The outlet properties I've added are for the text fields, and I also have two methods. A button adjust tapped, that's that button I was just tapping, and also a dismiss keyboard that just resigns first responder on the sender for all of the text fields. I've also got a protocol. Adjust inventory with part number, quantity, and bin as a delegate, and reorder quantity change to whatever for part. So really the detail view controller has not seen huge changes. The big place where changes occur is in the parts list view controller. Parts list view controller is now adopting the detail delegate, and in my segue, let's look at that, the prepare for segue sender method, where I look for the detail string, I'm adopting the protocol by setting the delegate for the detail controller to myself in the parts list view controller. All right, so the big change is implementing the delegate methods. So let's look at reorder quantity changed for part. This is the simple one. All we're doing here is going into the parts catalog and then change the reorder quantity for part. So I obviously have added this method. Let's look at that. Here it is, change reorder for part. I set up the part array by getting the object for the key for the part number, and then I get a mutable copy of that part array, and I change the reorder quantity, replace object at index 3 with that new boxed up NS number, and then I set the mutable part array back to the part array, and then set that part array as the object for the key of the part number, and I'm done. So I have to unbox, unwrap, and then rebox and rewrap. And this is pretty typical of what we do for changing something that's in an NS dictionary like a parts catalog. Okay, without taking it all down and then putting it back up and stuff like that. All right, so now let's look at this other problem. In parts list view controller, we have another delegate method, and that delegate method is called adjust inventory with part number, bin and quantity, or quantity and bin. All right. We need a couple of things in order to perform an inventory adjustment. If a part is already in a bin in inventory, we need a Boolean, a flag, if you will, called bin has part. We've set it initially to no. And we need to get an array copy of the actual target part if that part does have that bin, so we can change it like we just did. So the first thing we want to do is check and see if the bin is actually in inventory. So if our bins array contains, if our bins set thing, dictionary of sets is what it is, contains an object of this bin, then the bin exists. The next thing we need to check is if this part exists in this bin. So we get a set parts info, which is the object for the key in that dictionary bin, and then we just look at all the parts. And if any of those parts contains the part number, then the bin has the part, and we get a copy, a mutable copy of that part array, so we can change the bin or the part, the quantity in that bin. So now we check. If the bin has the part, it was set here. So if the bin indeed has the part, then we treat P quantity that's coming into this method as an offset of the existing quantity. That's how the -20 stuff worked in our demo. And then we apply that offset. So we unbox the NS number into a new quantity integer and adjust new quantity by the incoming quantity parameter to the method. Then we want to perform a check. We've got a problem. If the quantity becomes less than 0, we have a pretty serious problem, which means we moved more parts than exist. So let's check with the business owner on that. For right now, we're going to punt and create a to-do comment. We need to return. We need to warn the user somehow they're setting a negative quantity. We also need to check with the business and ask them, what does that really mean? In some cases, that might be okay, but maybe the business is going to tell us they don't want to do something like that. The next thing that happens is, if the new quantity is equal to 0, we need to check with the business that's driving this and ask them, do you want us to remove this part from inventory? Do you want us to flag it someplace else? Do you want to write a flag into the catalog? What do you want to do? I kind of lean toward, and probably we will just delete the part from inventory because it's still going to be in the catalog. But we need to check with the business. So to-do comments show up in a couple of places. First of all, you can do a find in your code and for these to-dos. But the other place that's really kind of neat that they show up in is right here. We have the adjust inventory, and I can see I have 2 to-do comments here that I can just go directly to, and it will highlight the entire comment, and then I can deal with that. Okay, so after we have unboxed the new quantity, we need to rebox that quantity and then replace that in the target part. And then the final thing we need to do is get that array out of the set and replace it with a target array, and then replace the new set into our bins. So here is the parts set. We find the part to remove, we flag it, and then we remove the old part record from parts, add the new part record from 2 parts, and then replace the set in the bin. Set object parts for key P bin, and we're done. All right, so let's look at what this if is. This if was if the bin does have the part already. If the bin doesn't have the part already, we just want to add it to the bin, and that's easy. We already have a method. Add part, quantity, bin. Easy. If the bin is not already in inventory, likewise, we just want to add the bin. So we do the same thing. Add part, quantity, and bin. And then finally, we log out. We write the report from the inventory in the main controller, and we're done. So it all works just as we saw in the demo at the beginning of this session. Thank you very much.